Maggie. Chapter 2. After eating and chatting about nothing in particular with the other girls, Evelyn and I leave the cafeteria. Her room is beside mine, down the third long hallway. We could have bunked together if we wanted, but we came to an agreement that we each needed our own space. If we tire of each other, which is possible, considering we may be confined in this base for eternity, we can just lock up in our own respectable rooms and ride out the time until we make up. We've had disagreements in the past. Once about a boy we both made out with during a drunken game of spin the bottle our freshman year. Another time over who was going to drive during our spring break road trip. All petty arguments, which were always resolved within a day or two. Regardless, having my own space is important. I need room to breathe. A haven to escape into whenever I need to let my mind rest. Social interactions can be overly taxing sometimes, and I need a safe place to decompress at the end of the day. Our footsteps are the only sounds in the corridor for the first few minutes, and then Evelyn sighs. "Do you think things are bad outside?" "I try not to think about it," I reply, fisting my hands at my side. We've all tried using our phones to contact our families without avail. The service is shit down here, and when we do find a bar or two, no one answers. My phone has had 0 missed calls and no new messages for the last 2 weeks. "Have you asked Jaisal?" she prompts, glancing at me sideways. Jaisal and I have spoken in private a few times. He seems to think I'm the leader of our small pack, and whenever he has questions or wants to update us on his ventures outside, he comes to me. Most of the time, it's the middle of the night, while I'm lying in bed staring at my ceiling, when he taps on my door. I've never let him inside, but he seems content to brood at me from the threshold. I haven't asked, but he has mentioned a few things about downtown. Mostly bad news. The last survivors scavenged a lot of the buildings to scraps, and it looks like all the other humans are dead or have skipped town. I swallow. Just because Nashville is a wasteland doesn't mean that the rest of the world shares its fate. Maybe Mom and Claire are fine, holed up in our small town with a few of the redneck gunslingers for company. Maybe the mad vampires never made it that far south. Maybe. Evelyn stops in front of her door, tapping on it lightly as she leans against it, facing me. "You should ask him. We need to know more about the outside world. Maybe he can run to the next town over, see if anyone is alive there. And if they are..." I cross my arms, frowning. "Then he can bring them here, where they'll be safe." I raise my brows. "Do you think they'll cooperate?" Jaisal's a vampire, despite his good, decent nature. They probably wouldn't trust him. Evelyn just shrugs. "He could try. If we can find survivors, then maybe life underground would be worth it. I'm not so sure it'll be fun spending a lifetime in here without an actual life." A deep frown creases her face. "What about love? Our futures?" She shakes her head, biting the side of her cheek. "I'm trying to stay optimistic, but I don't want to waste away in here." Without thinking, I pull Evelyn into my arms, hugging her tight. "We won't waste away. We're young and hot as fuck." I squeeze my eyes shut, holding her tighter. Our lives are still worth living. I lean back, trying to keep my misting eyes dry as I give her an encouraging smile. And we have each other. If I have to dress a mop in a soldier's uniform and tape a cutout of Leonardo DiCaprio on its head so you'll have a boyfriend, then I will. Evelyn lets out a shoulder-shaking laugh and nudges my arm. "I'll let you know when the need arises." She arches a brow and leans near my ear, whispering, "Maybe we can talk the vampire into doing a haul from the sex store." I wouldn't turn down a vibrator. My cheeks heat, and I peer down the hall, shushing her. "You know he has superhuman hearing, don't you?" "Gosh." Ev rolls her eyes, twisting the doorknob as she does so. "He probably doesn't even know what a dildo is, Maggie." Her voice rises an octave. "Though it'd be cool if he'd learn." I cover my eyes with one hand, turning away as she enters her room. "Bye, Evelyn." "Bye," she sings back. Her door shuts with a soft click, and then I'm alone. Our doors are a few yards apart, but the seconds it takes for me to get there are long enough to give the hairs on the back of my neck time to rise. He's watching me. I don't know how I know it, but I do. I can feel his eyes like a physical touch, a caress on my back, a tug on my psyche. My muscles tense, and when I reach my door, I freeze, hand grasping the knob. I know you're there, Jaisal. His response comes as footsteps, slow and steady, the sound echoing through the hallway behind me. I turn, eyes wide before narrowing, when I catch sight of his fierce expression. Every time I see that look on his face, the one filled with brutal longing and possessiveness, my body fights over which emotion it wants to cling to. Awe. Or annoyance? Annoyance has won this round. His black volumed hair bounces with his step, and he smiles as he closes in on me. A set of gleaming fangs sparkle beneath his upturned lip, and I can't prevent the shudder that runs up my arms and over my spine. Maggie. Funny seeing you here, Jaisal purrs, leaning against the painted concrete wall a few feet away. I arch a brow. Oh, surely not, seeing as my room is nowhere near yours, and this hallway is the furthest away from anywhere you'd be headed. My hand drops from the doorknob, and I cross my arms over my chest. What is it you want, Jaisal? His smile transforms into a look of hunger as he bites his bottom lip, his piercing eyes burning with heat. You know what I want. I do. He's made sure of it. He wants me to be his. I wave my hand in dismissal. We've talked about that. Here on Earth, we humans like to choose our partners, and I most certainly am not choosing you. So what is it you really wanted? To come and demand I fuck you? Because that will not happen. I narrow my eyes. Jaisal's back straightens, his eyes flaring. I'd never demand that of you. He shakes his head, running a rough hand through his locks. I came to ask once more if you wanted something from the outside world before I left. Well, shit. Now he's going to make me feel bad for being a bitch. I sigh and lean against my door, mimicking his earlier pose. I really don't need anything, Jaisal. If you're adamant about getting me something, you can look for clothing. We all need new outfits. He stares at me, not speaking for what feels like forever. I'm about to let loose a nervous laugh under his uncomfortable scrutiny when he leans forward, closing the distance between us. Our noses are an inch apart before he stops, and I plaster my back against the wood of my door on instinct. I want to provide for you, Maggie. I don't care about the others. You are my mate, and you are the one who deserves all the spoils I bring back. Yet now you tell me you wish for nothing? Why should I even go? What good does it do me to care for the others if you aren't finding joy in my findings? His finger trails over the side of my face, and he tucks a strand of my curly hair behind my ear. I gulp, stunned into silence and frozen with shock. I don't know what to unpack first. I'm his mate? No one else matters? He's only helping the others because of me? Would he let them suffer if it weren't for my presence? Another icy shiver runs up my neck as I stare into the eyes of the vampire. You'd let them die if it weren't for me. His face wrinkles as if he's confused by my question. If I thought they were just food, perhaps. But I know they're beings with as much complexity as myself. I don't think I'd let them die. He rubs his chin, watching me closely. But I also don't think I'd be out searching for Bath and Body Works if it weren't for you, Maggie. He leans in closer, and no matter how loud my mind screams for me to be frightened, I don't lean away. I just want to please you in more ways than one. My voice is a murmured whisper when I speak. Why? He places his hands on my face, cupping my cheeks as he leans forward. Our noses are touching, and I can feel his breath as his nostrils flare. He's smelling me, breathing my scent into his nose. I know this should make me fear him. He's a predator, and he's smelling me, catching my scent like a bloodhound tracking its next meal. But the way he does it with such longing and care. Fuck, it makes me feel things I promised I wouldn't let myself feel. With my head in the clouds and all my hesitance vanquished, I press my lips against his. My chest explodes with all the feelings I've been forcing myself not to feel for the last 2 weeks. Thoughts of monsters and blood disappear in an instant as he leans against me, pressing his chest to mine until I'm flattened between him and my door. His tongue snakes out, brushing against my lips as he seeks entrance, tasting me. I moan deep in my throat before parting my lips, allowing him to do whatever he wishes. It's so easy to just let go. To allow him to touch me, to hold me, to kiss me. Until his fang scrapes across my upper lip, stinging as it pierces my skin. I press against his chest, pushing him away as I lift my other hand to my mouth. I look from him to the blood on my fingertips. He grabs my hand in a blur of speed, grasping my fingers. He dips his head slowly, licking the drops of crimson from my skin. I seem to have nicked you. I'll be more careful next time. I lean away from him as I push harder against his chest. I think you should go, Jaisal. This was a mistake. His face darkens, but after a moment, he dips his chin in a single nod. He steps back, turning as he calls over his shoulder. I'll be sure to find more clothing. Good night, Maggie. And then he disappears around the corner, leaving me alone and breathless in front of my door. Maggie. Chapter 3. After a night of unrestful sleep and a morning of listening to the girls bitch and moan over sweetened rolled oats, I find myself back in my room with Evelyn for company. I'm lying on my bed staring at the ceiling as she describes her childhood in a coastal town. Evelyn grew up in Myrtle Beach, a tourist hotspot further north. I had heard of the spring break showdowns that happened there, but I always hit the Gulf shores whenever I had time to take a trip. Most of those instances happened with my family during our vacations, and hearing her stories that mirror my own cherished memories brings back a nostalgic ache to my chest that I can't seem to wish away. Let's change the subject. I'm tired of hearing about an ocean I'll probably never witness again, I lie. The truth is that I can't stand to think of my mother and sister any longer. Evelyn crosses her legs as she relaxes against the wall, limbs outstretched. She's playing a game of Candy Crush on an old iPad we found in one of the vacant offices. It was the only electronic we could find that was unlocked, and with the internet down, we couldn't download any other games. We take turns renting the tablet for a day before handing it over to the next person in line, like an endless game of pass the stick. Today just so happens to be Evelyn's turn with the tablet, and she's damn sure getting her money's worth, metaphorically speaking. She peers at me from over the screen, brows arched. What, or maybe who, should we talk about? Jaisal, perhaps. Her lip turns up on one side as she shoots me a devilish smirk. I roll my eyes. What about him? I try to sound cool, even though my stomach does a little flip at the mention of his name. He wasn't at breakfast this morning, nor in the library when I passed by its open door. To be honest, maybe it's best that he's putting distance between us. The kiss we shared last night was a mistake. It can be nothing more than a terrible, horrid, frighteningly beautiful mistake. I can't forget that he bit me, and that he licked the blood from my fingertips. Evelyn makes a disbelieving noise. Are you serious? He was staring at you like he wanted to eat you this morning. This morning? I shake my head, not understanding. He wasn't around this morning. I remember looking for him as I nibbled on my burnt toast. I mean, not looking, just curiously surveying the room and noticing his absence. Yup. She grins. I saw him pop in while you were arguing with Jezebel. He stared for a good minute before disappearing again. I shrug my shoulders, ignoring the uptick in my heartbeat. Maybe he needed something. Right, she draws, side-eyeing me. He needs you from the looks of it. Why don't you give him a shot? He's a little creepy, sure, but he hasn't tried to eat any of us yet. Besides, we don't have many options in the boyfriend department, and he definitely has a thing for you. Give him a shot. My eyes widen. He's a vampire. She waves her hand at me, her game making little cha-ching noises as she swipes her other finger over the screen. So what? We're humans, aren't we? We probably seem pretty alien to him too. And he's helping us. I don't see a reason not to trust him. Yet, I return my gaze to the ceiling, dissecting her words. Could I learn to trust a vampire? Have I done so already? The hallways are as bright as they always are, day and night, as I sneak through the compound. The only noise echoing through the corridors are the squeaks of my sneakers as I travel. Everyone else is cozy in their beds by now. It's 10 past midnight, and I've finally talked myself into finding Jaisal. I've been fighting a losing battle of mental tug-of-war since Evelyn left my room earlier today. Two thoughts warred inside me. Should I let the vampire kiss me again, or should I tell him to leave me alone once and for all? I had to really dive deep to find the answer. The strongest emotion came to the discussion last, giving me peace in my final decision. Loneliness. I've been lonely for a long time, even before the end of the world. Whenever I'm with Jaisal, even if we're a room width apart, I feel seen. Valued. He makes me feel special, which is ironic if you think about it. The otherworldly vampire makes me feel special. I'm not sure whether I'm making the worst decision ever, or the best. By the time I make it to his office door, my hands are shaking. I bite my lower lip, debating on turning around right this second and running back to the safety of my comfortable, predictable, unchanging bedroom. But before I have time to flee, the door swings open, revealing a massive shadow looming in the dark passage. Red eyes glint in the dark, reminding me I'm in the presence of a predator. I hold my breath, frozen in fear. A heartbeat later, the lights switch on with an audible click, and I'm staring up at Jaisal's worried face. Maggie. Are you well? A defined line creases between his brow as he reaches out to me, placing both hands on my shoulders as he scans me from head to toe. Well? Oh, I'm fine. Totally normal, I stammer, mentally slapping myself for sounding like a blubbering idiot. I straighten my back and clear my throat. The reason I'm here is to clear the air, Jaisal. His face smooths back into its uniform blank gaze, but his eyes remain heated, and they seem to consume me with every second his heavy stare rests on my face. I fight the urge to fix my hair, and wish I had thought to apply lip gloss before I made the rash decision to come here in the dead of night. With the rest of the base so quiet, our meeting here feels strangely intimate. My cheeks grow warm at the thought, and I push all notions of what we could do while the rest of the world sleeps to the very back of my mind. His gaze flicks up to my lips. Would you like to come inside? I can hardly breathe, but I nod my head yes, and then follow him into his so-called lair. Jaisal shuts the door behind me. Time to change my life with a single conversation.
Jaisal. Chapter 4. Maggie's gorgeous brown curls slide down her shoulder as she leans back in my office chair. Her plump lips are now white as she presses them together, studying me as if she's trying to piece together a puzzle hidden within my eyes. I watch her. It seems that's all I can do when it comes to my mate. Other than our brief, soul-changing kiss last night, she hasn't let me come near her. The moment I walked into the girl's hidden dwelling, I became enemy number one. Someone to be feared. A monster. I've been chiseling away at those false assumptions ever since. Last night, I broke through an iceberg. I'm just not sure if it's frozen over again. As I look into the eyes of my mate, I have a sudden burst of hope. She isn't staring at me like I'm the beast of her nightmares. She's watching me like she imagines I'm the hero who rescues her in those dreams. I take a step toward her, noticing that she no longer flinches away. You say we should clear the air, Maggie. What exactly does that mean? I take another step before lowering myself in front of her chair so that we're at eye level. Her stare widens as she drops her head to follow my motion, but when I place my hand on her knee, she doesn't swat it away. I mean, we should talk about what's happening between us, she says, gesturing between her chest and mine with a single manicured nail. Her pink mouth parts as a luscious blood-red tongue snakes out to wet her lower lip. She doesn't mean for the action to be seductive. It's more of a nervous tick, but the action nearly draws a groan from my throat. The air is coated in her scent, and the soft feminine energies which waft off her in waves. I can barely stand to be near her when she's this raw with natural beauty. Maggie is bewitching, from her perfectly tanned toes to the top of her frizzy curls. I rub my thumb over her knee, imagining what her skin feels like beneath the thick sweatpants. What is happening between us, Maggie? I know how I feel, but I'd like to know what's occurring inside that elegant brain of yours as well, my mate. She arches her brow. Can't you just read it? That'd probably make this conversation a little easier. I cock my head to the side. You've made it very clear you don't particularly enjoy the invasion of privacy that's involved with my ability, Maggie. Shall I fish for your thoughts now? I wouldn't mind tumbling into her mind right now. I want to feel how she feels, to see into her soul and uncover her most exclusive desires. Maggie is a mystery I'm always trying to unravel, but I never seem to get anywhere close to the truth. She sighs and places her hand over mine, and my eyes light up with surprise. She's touching me by choice. Oh no. I don't think I'd like that. Let's keep the mind reading to a minimum if that's okay. A warm pink blush spreads over her freckled cheeks, and I can almost smell the blood as it pools there. My fangs ache to bite into her, but this hunger is not the kind I'm used to. This urge is far more sacred, unique in its difference. My soul longs to join with hers, to bind us forever. The calling is like a never-ending ache, one that will not mend until I've completed our union. Maggie is my mate, and so for now and forever I'll care for her. I'll love her. I'll protect her from all harm, no matter the enemy. Whatever you wish, Maggie. I dip my head and place a quick kiss atop her hand, not able to help myself. She makes a noise of appreciation in the back of her throat, and my chest blooms with pride at the fact that I've pleased her. I want to please her more often, to pleasure her in ways she's only ever felt in her dreams. I want to taste her. She clears her throat. I like you, Jaisal. I know it's wrong, and I know you bit me, which was a little frightening, by the way. It isn't wrong for you to like me, Maggie. In fact, it's perfectly right. The calling signaled us as mates, which means Maggie and I fit together like two halves of a whole. Our souls are linked by something old, written in the stars of all world skies long ago. If she didn't enjoy me, it would be a shock. I've never heard of a soul match who didn't stay together. In all of my travels, not once did I catch wind of anyone being rejected on Azure by their true mate. Not the way Maggie has rejected me, up until our kiss last night. I had almost lost hope in our bond, had almost thought our species were too different. Almost. Regardless, the biting was something we should discuss before we take things further. I do like you. She snickers to herself, smiling slightly. Though you're a bit out of my league. Vampires are so. She waves her hand over my face. Perfect. Like Greek gods or something. I grab her free hand in mine, holding it firm. I'm not out of your league, Maggie. You're the most beautiful creature I've ever encountered. I would truly be the luckiest male alive to have you as mine. Her cheeks redden again, and she looks down at her lap, lashes fluttering. Thanks, she mutters. I place a finger under her chin and coax her face back up until our eyes lock again. Please continue. What do you want to tell me about my bite? I didn't mean to pierce your skin. You're just so soft. For emphasis, I brush my thumb over her cheek. I don't like it. We can see where our friendship takes us, but I'll never kiss you again if you bite me. I may look like a snack, her brows raise as she smiles at a joke I don't fully understand. But I'm not one. I don't want you to drink my blood. A wave of disappointment crashes through me as my throat dries, but I don't let it show on my face. I don't wish to hurt Maggie or frighten her, but how can we complete the bond if we don't share our blood? Would I be content with staying this way, unbound but in her good graces? The answer is yes. It has to be yes. Losing her isn't an option. So I just nod my head. I'll not bite you again, Maggie. You have my sincerest apologies. Her smile brightens. Then I accept your apology. And with that, I place my hands on both of her knees, rubbing up them slowly. Does this mean we can be friends, Maggie? Her gaze darts down to my wandering hands, and I can see her throat bob as she swallows. Why, yes. Tell me, mate. I lean forward until our faces are only inches apart. Do friends get to taste each other?
Maggie. Chapter 5. Do friends get to taste each other? He asks, voice thick and husky. Oh shit. We're really doing this. Not normally, no, but if biting is off the table, I guess I can make an exception for you. How could I say no? He's had me trembling in this office chair, panties soaked, since the moment he placed his hands on my knees. Goddamn, do all vampires have the skill level in seducing women? How was it I ever feared him to begin with? I mean, his fangs are still a little frightening, but now the alarming gleam of the sharp incisors kind of turned me on. It's like I'm frightened to be bit, but letting go and trusting him not to hurt me is sexy as hell. This is Jaisal, the male who stares at me alone in a room full of beautiful women. The vampire who killed 3 scumbags to save me from a world of misery. Jaisal, the only one of his kind who isn't a monster. In 2 weeks, I've gone from having night terrors of the guy to wishing he would touch me more often. Like now, as his hands trail higher over my thighs. Could this all be stemming from vampiric compulsion, like in the Hollywood television shows? I have a feeling my accusations about him having that ability are false, because these emotions are too me. It's like he knows how to please me in exactly the right way. He's brought me my favorite kind of chocolate, made my oatmeal with a hilarious amount of cinnamon and sugar, kissed me the way I always longed to be kissed. It can't be compulsion if everything he does is what I wished for in a partner before I even knew what it was. It doesn't matter what the other women think about what we do behind closed doors. In fact, they don't even need to know. Can I kiss you, Maggie? Jaisal purrs, stroking his fingers dangerously close to the inside of my thighs. Please, I breathe, leaning down so our lips are almost touching. I stop just in front of his face, waiting for him to take me. He does. He adjusts his crouch so that he's towering an inch above my head, taking control of this vulnerable state I've allowed myself to fall into. All of my worries are squashed the moment his lips are on mine. He kisses me gently, but his lips are demanding. He wants the control, and I'm more than willing to hand it over to him. I'm tired of being strong. Tired of keeping my guard up. It's time to let him keep me safe, even if it's just for the night, I think. Jaisal's hands cup my neck on either side, not squeezing, but making sure I know he's got me in his grasps. The action causes my arousal to rise even higher, and I moan into his mouth. Damn, he must think I'm easy as hell, I think, realizing it took him less than a minute to make me want to rip his clothes off. Maybe this intense longing comes from the fact that I've been celibate for far too long. Or the fact that the 2 times I had sex, my partners were the 5 minutes and done type. Jaisal growls deep in his throat, his eyes blazing. I'm not sure if I did something wrong or if he did. Did he just read my private thoughts? Heat fires behind my already rosy cheeks. I don't have time to tell him off before he rips my jeans at the seam and cold air blasts against my swollen core. I gasp, brows already drawn together as I struggle to sit up and yell at him for ripping my only good pair of jeans. Before more than a startled cry can leave my throat, his hot, wet tongue is between my legs. I collapse back into the chair, limbs suddenly limp. This is something I've never done. Not once has a man went down there. I've always been a source of pleasure, never pleased myself. The sensation of his hot tongue touching the most sensitive part of my body sends a shock wave of ecstasy from my toes to the tip of my head, and I arch my back, pressing my hips toward him in a silent beg for more. Jaisal watches me with heated eyes, and I can't seem to yank my gaze away from him, even as my mind goes blank in a fit of overwhelming lust. My lips part, a moan escaping through them as his tongue glides over my clit. Oh fuck. I lose control then, throwing all self-preservation aside as I grind myself against the vampire's face. Luckily, through it all, his fangs don't ruin my fun. His fingers grip the swell of my hips as he clings to me, licking me greedily as if he can't get enough. When I come, legs clenched around his shoulders, he kisses me. His lips trail sweetly, revering kisses all over my folds, climbing upward until he reaches my knee. I hold my breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Does he expect me to do the same for him now? His eyes cut to me, scalding as his brows pull together. He plants one last kiss over my thigh before pulling away. I'll not need any returned favors, Maggie. This was my gift to you. He stands, pulling at the strings of his sweatpants. Looks like that's exactly what you're expecting, I say, pointing to the pants that are now falling past his knees. Much to my displeasure, he's wearing a pair of boxer briefs, but I can still see an outline of his clearly excited member. He clucks his tongue and throws the pants at me. No. I only assumed you'd like to leave here with bottoms. He raises his brow in a silent question. Touché. My cheeks heat red. Oh, thanks. I begin to pull my legs through the clothing, glancing at him through my lashes. This is not as awkward as it should be. I just had one of the most explosive orgasms I've ever experienced on this dude's face, and yet he's admiring me like I'm a shiny new trophy. He leans against the wall in his small office, watching me pull on his pants. Finally, I look at him head on, bracing myself for whatever happens next. I know you think I'm yours now, or whatever, but we need to keep this between us, okay? I don't want the other girls to know I gesture to him, fumbling with my hands as I try to work out just what we really are. Involved with you. Besides, it's improper to kiss and tell. Jasel's cheerful expression hardens at my words, but only slightly. He nods his head once. But you will come back to me? You'll give me a chance? I don't think I could say no, even if I wanted to. Instead of answering, I smile. He must take that for a yes, because he gives me one final look over before approaching. I stand perfectly still as he leans toward my neck, my pulse jumping, but he only nuzzles the tender flesh there. I can hear his nostrils flare as he inhales deeply, taking in my scent. I don't hear an exhale, but a moment later, he's in front of the door, holding it wide as I dazedly walk out of his room and back to reality.
This concludes Blood at First Sight. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for a sample of Blood at Dusk, Book 1 in the SoulBlood series, available on Audible.
Chapter 1. Cora. My fingers dig through my bag, searching for the smooth metal of my only friend. I find the pistol easy enough and pull it out. The silver finish glints against the flickering light of my candle as I rub my palm over the grip, comforting myself with the touch. Sliding the barrel under my chin, I place my finger on the trigger. I don't cry tonight. I don't cry at all anymore. This is my ritual, and mine alone. Completely alone. I exhale, bring the gun down, and stuff it into my backpack. I wrap my arms around my chest. Coward. This wasn't weakness. This was a curse. The curse of being the luckiest girl in the world. I doubt many others have managed to survive this long. I only wish that I was released from the agonizing grip of this nightmare, like the rest of humanity was. Drip, drip, drip. The constant trickle of wetness as it falls into the collection pool is driving me mad. Sometimes the droplets sound like people, screaming for someone to save them. I cover my ears with my hands, rocking back on the heels of my feet. It's dark inside the cave I call home. The light from my candle barely allows enough visibility for me to see my arm when it's stretched out in front of me. I snatch my flashlight off of the smooth stone floor, aiming it toward the tunnel that leads to the entrance of my dwelling. Click. There's nothing there but smooth rock, and the stalagmites glisten as the light hovers over them. The tightness in my chest loosens just enough for me to breathe deeply again, and then I switch the light off. I only have one more pack of batteries, and I can't afford to waste them. Spending days alone inside of this cave affects me more than I'd like to admit. So instead of going insane, I daydream. Memories of my mother fill my mind, and I lose myself in the visions. I watch my mother's face brighten with a smile as she pulls her cardigan around her shoulders, dancing as she waves a smoking stick of sage over the house. She places shining geodes on top of our mantel for good luck, stating that we'll need it soon. Fleetwood Mac blares on our old record player as she rids our house of negativity, boasting about her hippie days in Bali as she tousles her messy curls. She looks down at me like I'm the reason for her joy. Suddenly, my chest feels too tight, and I turn the flashlight on again, aiming it toward the tunnels. No one is there, but the twinkle of the stones slow my heart once more. I sit up in bed, throwing my blanket off my lap. My bed isn't much of a bed at all, really. It's a pile of old t-shirts and whatever else I could find in the gift shop that once operated outside of this cave, leading tourists inside to marvel at the beauty of the cavern walls. I'm lucky to have as much as I do, really. Lord knows I've been dealt worse hands. Pacing seems like a better option than lying in bed all day, so I walk from one end of the cavern to the other. I'm not sure how many months have passed since the vampires arrived, bringing death and destruction to everything they touched. But the seasons have turned, and it's beginning to get cold again. A chill wafts through the tunnel, and I hug my arms to my chest. Not good. Not good at all. Cece would have known what to do about this. She'd have a plan for the cold weather. Maybe she'd start a fire, or try to insulate the makeshift door that covers the entrance to the cave. My sister's mischievous smile appears behind my eyelids, and I push my fingers against my temple. No, I won't think about her. Boom. I stand perfectly still as the sound echoes through the cave from outside. Blood pounds in my ears as moments pass in silence. I hold my breath as I wait for something else to happen. Surely, if something were outside, they would find my cave and drag me out, kicking and screaming. When nothing comes, I back away to my bed, keeping my footsteps as light as possible. It must have been a tree falling. Yep, that has to be it. I squeeze my eyes closed, willing sleep to take me. At least if I slept, I didn't have to deal with paranoia. When my mind refuses to quiet down, I give in to the thoughts. I think about my past, about my first year at university, and losing my virginity to that shithead Jason. When those thoughts become too painful, I replay my favorite movie in my head, changing the script to the way it should have been written. Eventually, sleep does come, and I welcome it.